I'm Amanda Mangan with In Ohio Country Today, and I have Senator John Husted here with me. Thank you so much for taking the time. I truly appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
And you're coming up on your first year in office. You've hit that milestone. And I know you've been getting a lot of discussion about that year in review. So, what are you hearing? What have you heard in the last year from farmers in Ohio and the ag community throughout the state?
Well, there are a number of things. First of all, they wanted us to address a lot of issues in the Working Family Tax Cut Plan, which certainly provided a lot of certainty for farmers on purchasing, being able to expense their capital equipment expenditures, give more tax predictability. It also helped families as it had it was the largest middle class tax cut in American history. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, cutting taxes on Social Security. Every working family got a tax cut, including a $2,200 tax credit for every child under the age of 18. So all of those kinds of things were really helpful to farm communities, farm families, all of those things top of the list. But also, expanding the death tax, estate tax standard so that farm families could stay in the same generation, pass farms down to their sons and daughters and grandchildren. And all of those things were a big part of the conversations that I had in the first 6 months in office.
And you just introduced the emergency water legislation, which is so important. We know how devastating the drought was recently for farmers across the state. And it's so important to have that legislation in place, right?
Well, yes, particularly for, rural communities who may have failures in their water and sewer systems and things like that. They may have something that goes wrong and they need emergency assistance. And where's the money going to come from? Well, we created a pool we're in the process of trying to create a pool of funding, give access for emergency situations. You think of emergencies as like tornadoes and hurricanes and floods, but there could be a lot of other things that can occur that could affect your water supply. And so what we're focused on is trying to make sure that those rural communities have access to funds in case of emergency.
And you're on the subcommittee for wildlife, fisheries, waterways, and I know WOTUS is a huge topic as well for concern. So what do you want farmers in the ag community to know about the waterways that are going to impact them?
It's interesting. I'm the only person on the Environment and Public Works Committee that's from a Great Lakes state. So I feel a special sense of responsibility to take care of our Great Lakes and our waterways. And, we've always had great partnerships with the agricultural community on smart farming, trying to invest in helping to make sure that we don't, that we can help farmers save money and prevent nutrient runoff by smart farming and making sure that we're only applying the amount of fertilizer that we need for the crops. That saves money. That also helps our waterways. So a lot of those kinds of things that I've been involved in the past through H2 Ohio and other different things that are, about getting the economics right, about getting things right for the environment. It doesn't have to be an either or. You could do them together.
And so important for the future of the ag industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so foreign trade, the trade deficit has been a big issue as well throughout the farming community. So looking forward, what are some of the things that you're seeing, hearing that are going to impact foreign trade, especially as it pertains to Ohio's ag community?
Yeah, look, right now we export a lot of agricultural products around the world. And but we're also being taken advantage of in terms of our trade policy. President Trump has engaged in a global conversation, we'll call it that, about what fair trade really should look like. Everybody wants to protect in these other countries their domestic markets. We of course want to protect ours, but we also want to make sure that everything's affordable to consumers. And as China really has been doing things unfair, not only to America, to the world, they tried to retaliate by, trying to not fulfill their commitment on soybeans and some other crops. And so hopefully we've got those issues resolved. As of my last check, that China was on track to buy the soybeans that they had agreed to purchase, but we'll have to constantly monitor that. Just because they say they're going to do something doesn't mean that they will do something. And again, back in the Working Families Tax Cut plan, we sort of passed a mini farm bill then because it had money in there for rural development, running money for conservation, which we talked about earlier, but also ag research, animal plant health inspection, agricultural marketing services, food and safety expansion, the Farm Services Agency, things that people in the agricultural community have become very familiar with. It expanded funding for those things by $65 billion. So all of that fits together. How do we market our products to the rest of the world? How do we cut fair trade deals where for everything we allow somebody to import, they're going to accept our exports? And then once you get the deal, enforcing the deal is important for farmers and all industries, including manufacturing.
And what's exciting is in Ohio, there are so many organizations and groups working to really diversify what products are created. You've got the, innovation lab that's doing so much with soy and finding soy foam ways to fight fires. So a lot of ways to really, get Ohio's ag products out there in lots of different ways, which is really incredible. Another issue facing
the world, it's like we feed the world and we feed America, we feed the world, and we also want to make sure that farmers can earn a fair profit, but also that we keep food affordable, and that's why you got to keep striking that balance.
Right, because we all know that farmers are already operating on super tight margins as it is.
Yep, indeed.
So when it comes to the labor force, Ohio has about a 20% immigration rate when it comes to the workforce. So what are the immigration policies that you see impacting Ohio's ag workforce?
Immigration policy in America has been a hot potato, right? Over the last decade more than that, over the century, we'll put it that way. And what's happened right now is that during 4 years of the Biden administration, there were about 10 to 15 million people who came into this country who were not properly vetted, and now they're causing some problems in the sense that we have criminal elements that came in with them, drugs, human trafficking, and the like. And so the enforcement of removing those individuals is a difficult conversation that we have an action that's going on in this country right now. However, immigration is also, when done properly, an essential part of our economy. And for the agricultural community, through the H-2A visa, has been an issue that ag community, the immigrant farmers, who are the working on with crops and harvest and things like that, that has gone on well. That relationship has been a good one for a number of years, and we just need to keep that going, making sure that we're addressing the needs of farmers, that people are following the rules, and that means cracking down on people who don't follow those rules. It's not fair to farmers who are going through the normal process of getting their workforce through the visa process to have to compete with people who don't do it right, who bring people in illegally and hire them at lower wages and undercut the people who do it right. So getting all of those issues correct is a very important part of it. I know that Secretary Rick Rollins, working with President Trump, has been a fan of making sure that we properly run the visa program for agriculture, and I will hope we will continue to do that.
Looming on the horizon, there's a lot, right? So one of the things on the horizon is the potential of a shutdown. And in February, there are the farmer bridge payments that are coming up. And of course, the Farm Bill was passed. So what are you seeing that may be a concern that farmers and the ag community really need to keep an eye on in case of a partial shutdown?
So the partial shutdown should not affect the ag community because most of those issues relating to the Department of Agriculture were passed in November during the long-term government shutdown. So the ag bill, the ag budget, Department of Agriculture was in that funding package. So that should take us through the remainder of this calendar year. However, we're hopeful that we can get the remainder of the farm bill done. So I don't think the government shutdown will affect agriculture. I hope we don't have a government shutdown. I think we're going to get past that. But it's also worth noting that there are still issues that we need to address in the farm bill. One of them hopefully will be E15. Believe that we have a reasonable compromise put together on that, to have a federal standard, to sort of bring the parties together between the petroleum industry, the refiners, and the ag industry. And so I'm hopeful maybe in February that we'll be able to make some progress there. We'll keep our fingers crossed and keep trying.
And the ag industry in Ohio, of course, is extremely diverse. And so many different pieces are wrapped up into that. You have colleges like Central State University, and you have so many different aspects where it's not just the traditional farm and farmer that are an integral part of the ag industry in Ohio. And it's 1 in 8 jobs are impacted by the ag industry. It's Ohio's biggest industry. So what else do you see coming up that you really want folks throughout the industry, not just the folks who are, harvesting and planting and taking care of the livestock, but everybody throughout the industry? What do you think they need to just keep an eye on and reach out if they have concerns?
Well, it's a great question. I don't think that there is a single thing, but remember, look, we're always dealing with issues regarding land use policy. How do we balance private property rights versus community standards, for everything like a wind, solar, data centers, things like that may be infringing on agricultural land. But at the same time, does a farmer have a right to do with their land what they want to do with it? Those are, I know, important issues that we have to continue to contend with. And I would rather contend with them at the local level, not at the federal level. We don't need the federal government dictating to local farmers and communities what to do there. You also have, the emergence of new technologies, whether that's drone technologies or AI or other types of smart agricultural tools that can help increase yields and lower costs so that we can get that predictability. It's also the availability of all of the ingredients that go into fertilizers and other things that are, sort of imported, and making sure that we have some of those costs contained, and that we have good relationships with our trading partners. All of those things are important issues that will continue to affect agriculture, and federal policy certainly is part of that, whether that is a visa policy, whether it's an E15 policy, whether it's import tariff policy. So the key is communication, right? Every time I talk to anybody in the ag industry, because remember, everybody in the ag industry doesn't always have the same opinion about things. Ranchers, livestock, poultry, row crops, it's all different. And in terms of the things that are dominant in the Ohio farming community, but you also have people that do maple syrup and have Christmas trees. They're all, there's so many things that are part of agriculture, and so it's just communication, making sure that our public policy makers hear from you and that you hear from our public policy makers so we can get on the same page.
Anything else that you want to get out there for folks?
Well, I tell you what, I think that some of the policies we put in place under the Working Families Tax Cut are going to help create more predictability in research and development, in capital expenditures that we will get. And then the whole idea of made in America, we need to make more things in America. All of that continue to be a boost, I believe, to the American economy, letting people keep more of what they earn, working families having lower taxes so they can spend and save on their priorities, which will hopefully be good for the rural communities across the state where agriculture thrives. All of those things very, very important as we head into 2026 and and also making sure that input prices like energy are kept affordable and low. Gas prices, diesel, that's a huge part of any farmer's bill that they pay to plant, harvest, and maintain their farms.
And it is so important. Ohio does such a great job with the Ohio Proud program and preserving Ohio farmland. And it's important to keep those going, right? And to support Ohioans feeding Ohioans.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned agriculture. We think about, oftentimes we think about, just the what happens on the farm, but then you have, the oil processors, the process corn oil, soybean oil. You have the bakers, you have the people that process, food. Like I always use the example, Jackson, Ohio, the pizza roll capital of the world. 90% of all the pizza rolls, in America are made in Jackson, Ohio. Like little things like that. But those are huge industries in those communities. Feeding people is a huge industry. Then you extend that to the grocery stores. You extend that to the restaurants and all the people that are part of that whole supply chain. So those little things that we talked about, which are big things, the input costs, the supports, the markets, all of those things are important at keeping food affordable and keeping the agricultural life something that just is not just a corporate invention, but it also can be part of our heritage as well.
Ohio really is the front lines of the food chain, right?
In many ways, including, yes, even the research at places like Ohio State or Worcester or other places that have big agricultural research facilities.
Anything else? And if folks want to get a hold of you, they can always reach out, right?
Yeah, please, reach out to our Senate offices, either in Ohio or in Washington, if you have any questions or you have things you want us to know. We pride ourselves in customer service. We will try to get you an answer as quickly as possible if you have a question or concern.
Well, thank you again so much for the time. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.